Good evening, night owl. Let your shoulders sink into the mattress, loosen your jaw, and notice how the pillow cradles your neck. Breathe in through your nose for 4 silent counts, and out for 6. We are about to wander through time on the trail of a small comfort most people forget to bless until the roll runs empty. Picture your modern bathroom for a moment. Soft light, warm tile, water that appears at a twist of the wrist, tissue folded in neat squares. Now let that image fade like steam on a mirror. Our story begins long before scented candles and porcelain bowls. Tonight we travel to an age of stone benches, vinegar buckets, and the communal sponge. No shocks await you, only slow, quiet scenes told with care, so your mind can drift as your body settles. Whenever you choose, let your eyes close. I will keep the lantern lit. It is still grey when you wake inside a modest waterfront insula. A gull cries somewhere beyond the shutter. The wooden frame rattles once, then stills. You swing your legs from a straw mattress. Bristles scratch your calves. Tiny husks of barley scatter onto the tiled floor. The first bodily message of the day arrives with undeniable urgency. You step into sandals stiff with salt, wrap a faded wool cloak across your shoulders, and push out into the street. The basalt stones radiate last night's coolness. Fishermen mumble greetings as they shoulder nets that smell of brine and cuttlefish ink. A baker's boy jogs past with a wicker tray of half-risen loaves. The yeast fog mingles with distant sulfur drifting from the mountain that watches all. Vesuvius, quiet for now. Down a narrow alley is the latrine identified by a carved satyr pitching grapes into a basin, ancient humor in low relief. Inside, 16 marble-smooth seats hug 3 walls. Candle stubs flicker in niches, painting warm ellipses on plaster. You pick a vacancy between an olive oil merchant and an elderly woman, whose eyes remain closed as she prays. Modesty bows to routine. Everyone sits, everyone continues their thoughts aloud or in silence. Beneath the bench, a shallow gutter carries fresh spring water drawn from uphill cisterns. The stream sighs past olive pits, herb stems, and last night's wine sediment, onward to the sea. Set in a bucket of soured water is your instrument, the spongia. When vinegar grew costly last winter, keepers thinned it with seawater, sting sharp as nettle, but it does the job. You finish, rinse, swirl, and place the sponge back upright for the next sole. 2 rinses is custom, 3 is courtesy. Outside, the sky has shifted from pewter to faint rose. Hours later, the forum bustles. A queue snakes from the latrine door. Farmers newly arrived with donkey carts of figs. Sailors from Alexandria stretching after nights on deck. Conversation flows faster than the gutter. Grain prices, gladiator rumors, a senator's rumored affair. A child of 8 joins the line holding a smaller sponge on a stick. Family property passed between siblings like a toothbrush. Listen to the cadence of talk. Half-whispered jokes about whose sponge is whose. Good-natured groans about vinegar shortage. One sailor boasts he has seen ivory-handled sponges in the public baths of Ostia. You and your neighbors imagine for a moment the luxury of a personal handle, then shrug. Envy is wasted energy when routine demands patience. The day wanes. Our vision travels 50 miles inland to a Roman army marching camp. Earthworks are thrown up, tents pitched, sentries posted. Soldiers dig a latrine fossae, shoulder-deep trench, rope stanchions on either side, plank footrests spanning the pit. Each man carries a personal sponge tied to his belt. Privacy is scarce, but discipline is abundant. Smell pine smoke drifting from field kitchens. Hear the thud of pickaxes. Feel dust settle on your tunic. A centurion inspects sponge cleanliness as strictly as blade sharpness. Dysentery kills legions faster than enemy spears. Routine hygiene is survival. After use, soldiers rinse sponges in buckets laced with seawater or, when inland, with wine vinegar rationed by the quarter jar. Better sour than sorry. The next morning, down a rocky shoreline, fishermen haul Euspongia officinalis from rope nets. They wash each sponge in seawater, beat it against basalt to loosen fragments, then dry it on wooden racks under Mediterranean sun. Dried, it feels coarse. Boiled in seawater, it softens. Merchants pack bundles in woven baskets bound for latrine keepers across the empire. A single sponge may serve 50 users before disintegrating. Economy dictates reuse. Personal ownership is for the infirm or the rich. We linger on the racks a moment. Sea breeze rattles sponge fibers like hollow wind chimes. Salt crust sparkles where droplets cling. A fisherman hums a low hymn to Neptune, then stacks the day's harvest on a mule cart bound for Herculaneum's port gate. By the 6th hour, sunlight glints off marble porticos, and the town bathhouse drones with echoed chatter. You step inside for your daily soak. Entry fee is 1 quadrans, enough for a small loaf of bread. Warm humidity fogs the air, carrying scents of olive oil, laurel soap, damp stone. Beside a broad basin sits a narrow lavatory alcove, really just 2 stone seats with a gutter below, so patrons can relieve themselves between the tepidarium and caldarium. A young balnita, bath attendant, tends a wooden tub of fresh vinegar water. Several spongia soak inside, handles carved from olive wood polished by countless hands. Notice the bath's gentle etiquette. Patrons dip a finger to judge temperature, ring once, and wipe quietly before stepping into warm pools. The alcove smells not unpleasant but sharp. Acrid vinegar pierced by hints of rosemary, and the sweet resin from incense burning in the frigidarium. Stay a moment in the steamy hush. Water ripples as someone slides into the marble pool, sighing in relief. A bronze strigil scrapes olive oil from skin. Droplets patter like slow rain. In the alcove, an elderly man hums a lullaby to himself, perhaps remembering a childhood far from these public comforts. Later, you visit Marcia, widow of a sailmaker, now keeper of Herculaneum's municipal sponges. She maintains a tidy booth near the fish market. On a walnut tablet, she tallies sponge deliveries. Harvest, 47. Usable after boil, 39. Replaced today, 12. Each sponge receives a strip of dyed wool, blue for baths, red for seafront latrines, yellow for the forum, so attendants know which bucket it belongs to. Marcia boils worn sponges in a copper cauldron of seawater and wood ash. Bubbles release trapped sand, foam skims away, carrying yesterday's residue toward a drain. She hums as she works, a gentle melody borrowed from temple hymns to Hygeia, goddess of health. You feel a simple peace watching her rhythm, lift, swirl, squeeze, drop, stir, skim. The cauldron's steam curls upward, carrying a faint mineral smell that mingles with fennel roasting in a nearby food stall. Dusk bleeds rose into indigo. Lamplighters touch torches to wall sconces. Inside the main latrine, two slaves wedge cedarwood plugs into the water channel so the gutter fills. One ladles in bucket after bucket of seawater, letting the current flush the day's sediment. The other sprinkles powdered lime to mask odors. The lime meets liquid, fizzing faintly. Tiny pops echo against stone. Regular patrons linger near the doorway telling jokes. How do you find a wealthy merchant? Follow the smell of imported vinegar. Laughter is soft, accepting. Bodily humor unites status levels. A vendor arrives with a basket of figs. Sweet perfume overwhelms the vinegar tang for an instant. She sells 3 to waiting patrons, proving commerce respects no boundaries. Past midnight, the streets lie still. Only the sea's slow hiss and a dog's distant bark disturb the hush. You return to the latrine, now empty, oil lamps guttering low. Sit on the cooled stone one last time. Feel how silence changes perception. Droplets echo deeper. The running gutter sounds almost like distant rain on a roof. Pick up the communal sponge. It is freshly boiled, faint warmth lingering. The vinegar bucket has been replaced with one of seawater flavored by sprigs of wild thyme. An attendant, a small kindness to night shift workers. Inhale the herbal whisper. Exhale. Let every fragment of the day merge into a single gentle memory. Dawn's pale sky and urgent need. Marble benches warmed by bodies, cooled by sea breeze. Vinegar, brine, wool, moss. Steam from the bathhouse, lime fizz at dusk. Midnight time over seawater, all of it bound by a ritual rhythm older than aqueducts. Rinse, wring, wipe, rinse again. You may notice gratitude softening inside your chest. Gratitude for small routines that let humanity endure storms, wars, eruptions. Routine is rhythm, and rhythm is enough. Breathe in through the nose. 2, 3. Breathe out longer. 4, 5, 6. The sponge returns to its bucket. The gutter resumes its quiet journey to the sea. Lamps flicker out one by one. The Roman dawn fades. Your mind is now ready to drift forward 8.5 centuries to a modest stationer on a coal-smoked street where aloe-soaked paper waits to be discovered. Breathe in through the nose and taste a faint sweetness of wood smoke and winter coal. Open your inner eyes upon New York City, December 1857. A city of 6-story brick tenements, cast-iron storefronts, and streets that echo with the clash of horseshoes on frozen cobblestones. A thin crust of ice rims the panes of 73 Chatham Street, where a placard reads, "Gayetty's medicated paper, the greatest necessity of the age." Inside, gas lamps sputter blue on shelves stacked with ledgers, envelopes, ink bottles. You feel the warmth of a pot-bellied stove at the back of the room. Pine kindling ticks as it catches flame. At a scarred walnut counter, Joseph C. Gayetty, tall, narrow-shouldered, opens a leather ledger and dips quill into iron gall ink. He notes, Decanter 9, 14 bundles hemp paper to soak, 3 gallons aloe extract mixed, 1 lb camphor Gladstone. A twitch at his lower back reminds him why he began this venture. For years, he endured the raw sting of ink-stained newspaper, common substitute for toilet paper among clerks and factory hands. A doctor prescribed leeches, another suggested lead-based ointment. Gayetty concluded the cure must lie in paper itself, if only it could be made soft. Move closer. A wooden vat the size of a washtub stands beside the stove. Gayetty's apprentice, Samuel, empties a hemp paper bundle into a bath of warm aloe vera, camphor oil, and glycerin distilled from beef tallow. Steam rises, carrying a scent like bitter cucumber and pine. The apprentice stirs gently with a paddle, counting strokes under his breath. 21, 22. Each sheet soaks exactly 5 minutes, then is lifted with iron tongs and draped over a cedar rack. Drops fall, spattering the wooden floor. They hiss where they strike the stove's iron top. When the sheets are half dry, Gayetty himself presses them with a rolling pin between flannel cloths, removing wrinkles. Finally, he stacks 500 sheets, trims edges square with a guillotine, and embosses his signature watermark, J.C. Gayetty. Patentee, a simple act of branding, yet radical. No manufacturer in the paper trade had thought to mark toilet sheets with a name. Gayetty believes customers will trust a signature where shame might otherwise silence them. Late afternoon light slants through clouded glass. Gayetty dons a wool overcoat and steps onto Chatham Street, samples tucked inside a doctor's valise. The air smells of horse dung and roasting chestnuts sold from a pushcart. He navigates to Fulton Market, intent on cornering pharmacists between purchases of patent elixir and cough lozenges. Inside Halsey's apothecary, the ceiling is low, lined with cobalt glass jars. Gayetty greets Mr. Halsey in a hushed tone. "May I interest you in a hygienic paper softened with aloe, sir? It prevents irritation and the malady of piles." Halsey raises an eyebrow. Topics of rearward discomfort rarely breach Victorian decorum. But curiosity wins. Gayetty withdraws a sheet, letting the soft fibers whisper against each other. Halsey rubs it between thumb and forefinger, notes the faint herbal scent. He frowns at the price, 50 cents per brick, thrice the cost of newsprint scraps, but accepts 2 bundles on consignment. Progress, like the paper itself, advances sheet by sheet. Across the river in Brooklyn, a druggist refuses to stock the paper. "Indelicate, sir. My patrons shan't discuss such matters." Gayetty bows, steps outside, and writes a note in his ledger. Obstacle, morality veneer. Solution, address wives, not husbands. He drafts a new broadside that evening, targeting domestic comfort rather than medical relief. Ladies, protect your household from chafing and unseemly afflictions. Ask your grocer for Gayetty's medicated paper. January wines whip off the East River. Coal cost doubles. Hemp paper too, due to Navy contracts for sailcloth. Gayetty's margins strain. One night, he sits by the stove rereading a physician's endorsement he commissioned. Aloe lignin prevents fissure and sororal bleeding. Dr. Silas Wainwright, MD. He wonders if the phrasing is too blunt. Ash falls from his pipe. He brushes it away, then winces at a familiar ache. doubt is a second sting, yet the idea of abandoning softness feels worse. Outside, church bells toll 9. Snowflakes whirl past the window, luminous against gas lamps. The warehouse smells of aloe and cold ink. Gayetty folds a freshly embossed sheet, presses it to his cheek, testing for smoothness, then sets it atop a growing stack. Spring thaw brings mud and renewed resolve. Gayetty purchases a 2-inch high advert in Harper's Weekly. Medicated paper, aloe-infused, 500 sheets, 50C, sent post-paid to any address in the Union. J.C. Gayetty, Stationer, 73 Chatham St, NY. Readers of the April 18th, 1858 issue pause over the bold face, some chuckling, others tearing the page to hide the ad in coat pockets. Orders trickle in, 3 bundles to Philadelphia, 5 to New Haven, 1 to Savannah. Gayetty's apprentice packs them in brown wrapping, seals with red wax stamped G. The U.S. Post's mesh sacks carry the parcels aboard iron horse trains that shriek through moonlit pastures. By midsummer, thank you notes arrive. Sir, your paper has soothed my husband's affliction. He labors on the Erie Canal. God bless your enterprise. Mrs. Mary Caldwell, Rochester. Find enclosed 1, kindly send 2 more bricks. The camphor scent is a benediction. Reverend John Underwood, Springfield Gayetty, copies each into a scrapbook titled Proof of Necessity. He plans to show them to skeptical druggists. One evening, he reads a letter aloud to Samuel, then posts it on the storeroom wall like a victory banner. Samuel, 19, grins shyly, having secretly swapped newsprint in his boarding house for medicated sheets. Success breeds mimicry. A competitor named Clarkson introduces therapeutic tissue aloe-washed, but skips the expensive watermark and halves the aloe concentration to save cost. Customers complain of rough edges. Clarkson's men hawk rolls on wooden dowels, cheaper to wind than to emboss flat sheets. Gayetty files suit in New York Supreme Court, citing conflation. Court dockets record his testimony. A man's comfort deserves honest fiber. Dilution is deception. Judges, amused yet attentive, allow his claim to proceed but warn that common names cannot be patented. Gayetty's attorney whispers that the roll form may dominate simply through convenience. Gayetty stands firm, softness first. Night after night, he works late embossing signatures, convinced the personal mark will carry trust where price wars falter. The stove burns low, the ledger's ink glows brown-red under lamplight. Outside, omnibus wheels hiss on wet cobbles. Pause inside the dim warehouse. Hear the muffled tick of a mantel clock, the occasional crack from the stove iron. Samuel's soft snore in the back office where he fell asleep over folding wrappers. Smell, warm aloe mingled with cedar shavings, faint coal dust drifting through the vent. Gayetty stops, extinguishes his lamp, and rests fingers on a stack of finished sheets. He breathes once, slow, deliberate, savoring the thought that somewhere a stranger's discomfort will ease because of this modest pile of paper. April 1861. Cannon smoke drifts over Fort Sumter, the nation fractures. Almost overnight, hemp, cotton rag, even straw pulp are commandeered for war ledgers, cartridge wrappers, field manuals. In New York, paper cost triples. Gayetty reads grim headlines at breakfast. Blockade drives, cotton futures sky high. A ledger note in shaky hand records, June 4th, aloe stock ample, paper scarce, must ration bundles. He suspends advertising, hoping to weather the storm. Across the Hudson, Clarkson's men switch to brittle wood pulp sheets. Splinters chafe, complaints grow, but soldiers in camp accept anything they can burn after use. A Union quartermaster telegraphs Gayetty for 200 bricks. He has only 80. He ships them anyway, packing with care, each bundle a whispered mercy against wartime misery. September 1862, Antietam Creek. Corporal Elias Ward writes on blurred notebook paper, "Sir, your medicated sheets spared 3 of us the doctor's knife. The aloe eases what camp diet inflames." The letter reaches New York folded inside a tobacco tin, edges charred by campfire sparks. Gayetty rereads it nightly, fingers tracing soot. He adds a clipping to the scrapbook, another proof that softness matters even amid the roar of war. October 1871. Flames leap across Chicago. 2,000 buildings collapse. Paper mills along the river burn. But one new facility built of limestone survives, the Kell and Murphy Pulp Works. Weeks later, they advertise surplus pulp at half price to replenish Eastern stock. Gayetty purchases a railcar load, reins in costs, and briefly outpaces his competitors. On the journey east, boxcars creak through fields where shock stooks of wheat stand against a copper sunset. Inside each car, bales of pulp breathe the sweet acid smell of wood lignin, the raw scent of potential comfort. Meanwhile, in Philadelphia, 1879, brothers Clarence and Edward Scott meet a traveling salesman carrying samples of crepe tissue imported from England. Inspired, they invest their savings in a used web rewinder and begin selling rolled tissue number 999, unadvertised, wrapped in plain paper to shield public modesty. They target hotels first, then railway companies, offering consistent length at lower cost than Gayetty's embossed sheets. In 1883, the Scott roll appears in Pullman Palace car washrooms, a brass spindle, discreet and silent. Passengers, relieved of rattling newsprint, mutter approval. Word whispers along rail lines faster than any newspaper could shout. Gayetty visits a Pullman car to investigate. He tries the roll, surprised at its thinness, impressed by perforations that tear neatly on a tug. Yet loyalty to softness and herbal balm anchors him. In his journal he writes, "The roll convenient, the sheet superior." But markets seldom heed sentiment. Gayetty, now 72, sits in a walnut chair within a marble courtroom under a ceiling fan that flaps like slow gull wings. His eyesight dim, he still recognizes the Scott Council's broadside. Toilet paper is a generic term. One cannot claim exclusive right. The judge concurs. The word toilet belongs to public nomenclature. Gayetty retains his watermark, but loses the field. He bows, adjusts his cravat, and steps from the courtroom into warm spring drizzle. Drops stipple the brim of his felt hat. Each droplet reminds him of aloe soaking into Manila hemp decades ago. December 1895. An obituary in the New York Times. J.C. Gayetty, inventor and stationer, dies at 77. A man of modest habits and inventive temper. No mention of medicated paper in the headline, yet his family receives condolences from pharmacists, Pullman porters, Civil War veterans, even a superintendent of Sing Sing prison who stocked Gayetty sheets for inmates too poor to buy comforts in the commissary. His watermark lingers in storerooms and back aisle medical catalogues another decade, then recedes like low tide. Slide across the Pacific to Niigata Prefecture, Japan, 1924. Inside the Yamakoshi paper mill, engineer Koji Yamada adjusts steam valves on a four-drinnier machine retrofitted to emboss a dot pattern so minute it resembles falling snow. The tissue emerges translucent, fragrant with hinoki chips stored beneath the drying cylinders. Yamada's supervisor invites you, quiet observer, to test softness. You grip a 3-square strip between thumb and forefinger. It dissolves like cloud. Each square bears a printed sakura petal, pale pink, nearly invisible unless backlit. Rolls are wrapped in washi, printed with haiku. Gentle stream of night, cherry blossom drifts away, leaving moonlit calm. They sell not through pharmacists, but through gift shops for weddings and seasonal festivals, reframing necessity as artful indulgence. By 1935, London's Claridge's Hotel imports Japanese rolls for luxury suites. Guests write letters home praising gossamer tissue. American mills respond with 2-ply paper, twin layers bonded by micro pockets of air for extra softness. A new slogan appears, as soft as the wings of a dove. Softness has finally eclipsed shame, advertising blossoms with pastel illustrations of cherubs, kittens, clouds. Yet behind every pastel cloud stands the faded silhouette of Joseph C. Gayetty, watermark in hand. Return now to your room. Hear whatever quiet machinery hums nearby, perhaps a heating vent, perhaps a night-running refrigerator. Turn your mind toward the silent roll waiting in your bathroom. No vinegar bite, no shared sponge, no brittle newspaper edges, only softness, achieved through 150 years of trial, error, lawsuits, steam valves, and aloe. Pause here, breathing through the nose. Feel air enter cool, exit warm. Let the back of your neck release tension. Soft history ripples outward like concentric rings in a bucket of spring water. A Roman sponge dripping vinegar. Gayetty pressing manila hemp. A Pullman porter loading anonymous rolls. Yamada embossing sakura petals. All humble acts serving one silent goal: ease a private discomfort. In the next part of our journey, we will stoop beneath ancient cities, sift moss in Viking pits, and open cedar boxes in Edo castles, reading secrets archaeologists uncover when they follow plumbing instead of politics. For now, let the warehouse shutters close, the gas lamps dim, and Gayetty's embossed signature curl into darkness like fading ink. Only the faint rustle of tissue lingers, whispering softness across time. Settle a little deeper. Picture a lantern held inches above still water. Its glow reveals the world beneath layer by layer. That is how archaeologists read history, softly, patiently. Tonight we will kneel beside them in tunnels, pits, and laboratories where silence is the first tool. We descend the same ventilation shaft, opened by Amedeo Maiuri in 1932. But now it is 2025. LED work lights cast a cool halo over ancient brick. Graduate students in Tyvek coveralls kneel on foam pads, brushing soil from a latrine bench collapsed into ash. Each scrub of the brush sounds like distant sand shifting. A technician unpacks a portable X-ray fluorescence scanner, handheld, shaped like an oversized pistol. She presses the nose to a fist-sized clod scraped from the gutter sediment. A soft beep, numbers bloom on a tablet. High phosphate, trace calcium, microscopic gold leaf. Another silent clue. Someone wealthy once relieved himself here after eating gilded pastries. In the corner, microarchaeologist Dr. Clara Neroni pipettes slurry into vials labeled R2 latrine lumen. Later, her lab will spin the samples in a centrifuge, isolate parasite eggs under electron microscopes, and reconstruct diet from DNA fragments. She speaks in a hush. We can tell what herbs they use to soothe discomfort: pine resin, frankincense, myrrh. One finds, in other words, small gestures of care buried in the darkest trenches. Swipe forward on time. S tablet. A team from the University of Glasgow straps a LiDAR scanner to a trolley and rolls it through Herculaneum S lower drain. Laser pulses bounce off uneven walls, mapping every curve within millimeters. On their laptop screen emerges a luminous green tunnel network, like veins glowing beneath skin. Pause and watch the model rotate. A side pipe labeled Privatum Balneum branches under what was once a private bathhouse. Analysis shows the flow here carried higher concentrations of crushed lavender buds, perfume from bath oils washed down daily. Historians smile, even waste trails carry fragrance of luxury. Shift latitude, cold rain dusts the shingled roofs of Jorvik, York. The year is 2024. Excavators have reopened the famous Coppergate latrine pit with modern methods. They insert oxygen-impermeable plastic screens as they go, preserving microlayers like pages of a wet book. Archaeologist Gareth Holm reaches layer context 42 and extracts a soft moss bundle bound with flax. Under 10x magnification, he shows you the crushed fibers angled inward at the tip, evidence it touched human skin once. He murmurs, "Sphagnum moss contains phenolic acids, gentle antiseptic. Vikings understood comfort." Next to the moss, he uncovers a tiny wood chip carved into a flat spatula. CT scan imaging in a nearby van reveals bevels smoothed by repetitive motion, tip stained with calcium salts, another wiping tool, this one reusable. We realize diversity was the rule. No single solution reigned even within one pit. Travel to York BioArc Laboratory. Shelves hold curved glass vials filled with amber liquid. Technicians add bleach and flotation chemicals, spinning samples until parasite eggs rise. Through microscopes, we observe Trichuris trichiura eggs, whipworm Dipylidium caninum, dog tapeworm, proof that pets shared households, pollen from meadowsweet, likely strewn on latrine floors for fragrance. A ventilation fan hums softly. Gloved hands adjust focus dials, no wider than a thumbnail. Science whispers, never shouts, its findings. Next, Lübeck, Germany, 2013. Conservators in a climate-controlled tent gently peel parchment sheets fused by 6 centuries of waste fluids. They submerge layers in deionized water baths laced with ethanol to inhibit mold. Script once illegible blooms dark again. Under raking light we read fragments. Qui dimitte nobis debita nostra, who forgives us our debts? A line of the Lord's Prayer, sliced mid-sentence, now repurposed for bodily debts. Gemologist microscopes reveal soapwort saponins in fiber hollows, scrubbed before disposal. A graduate researcher calculates there's enough parchment here to fill 3 choir books. In medieval Lübeck, wastebaskets were luxuries. Even sacred text could descend to privy use. Rather than cause outrage, the discovery brings a hush of empathy. Scarcity makes pragmatists of us all. Cultural heritage technologists now scan each parchment piece with structured light rigs. High-resolution meshes capture curling edges, wormholes, water stains. On a touch screen, you spin a 3D model of parchment fragment number 57, scale it up, trace Latin ascenders glistening under UV fluorescence. Text, smell, and touch all preserved digitally. A modern kind of softness for curious fingers 900 kilometers away. Return eastward to Edo, 1710. We saw bamboo shards. Now we witness the ritual itself. A young samurai kneels on tatami, eyes closed. His attendant offers a cedar box filled with hinoki wood chips and a single bamboo sliver. The samurai lifts it with 2 fingers, touches it to his forehead, a gesture of respect, then departs to a secluded corner of the garden. Rustling silk whispers, cicadas drone. Archaeologists excavating Edo Castle in 1999 found 48 such bamboo shards beneath a layer of charred roof tile from a later fire. Residue analysis detected camellia oil plus trace yuzu zest, both mild antiseptics. Slide the shard beneath your thumb in imagination. Cool, polished, edges softened by oil and time. At Tokyo University's Materials Clinic, a shard sits on a carbon fiber cradle inside a micro CT scanner. X-rays compile 2,000 cross-sections, revealing hairline fractures where pressure flexed it, minute channels of oil absorption, engraved clan crest, 3 hollyhock leaves within a circle. The scan plays as an animation, shard rotating in negative space like a ghostly relic floating in warm water. In silence, students watch the screen, each aware they are peering into the quiet dignity of past hygiene. Pause, breathe slowly. Let the smells blend. Vinegar of Rome, peat moss damp, parchment must, cedar oil. 4 different scents across 4 cultures, yet every aroma serves the same fleeting relief. History's unity hides in everyday acts. We are halfway through our underground wanderings. Ahead lie Ottoman palace privies, 1854 London cesspool maps, and the soft detective work of isotope analysis. For now, allow your shoulders to drop. Imagine torchlight dimming on damp brick, trade winds stirring ancient sails, and a single moss bundle resting quietly in its linen pouch. Drift southeast, the air warms, tinged with saffron and the distant call of a muezzin. It is 1580 inside Topkapı Palace, Istanbul. Marble corridors echo with slippered footsteps. Hanging lamps cough faint frankincense. A small antechamber of the imperial harem houses a private Hela-Hain, literally place of relief. Polished alabaster seats rise from a mosaic floor of turquoise tulips. Beneath each, a terracotta waste pipe slopes toward a hidden cistern of running water channeled from the Valens aqueduct. An attendant named Samet kneels beside a cedar box inlaid with mother of pearl. He lifts the lid. Inside rest rolls of fine cotton squares dyed pale peach, perfumed with attar of roses from Isparta. You crouch beside Samet. He demonstrates the palace ritual. Remove a square, fold into fourths, dab with rose water from a silver ewer, then offer it on a jade tray. The Sultan's concubine will never see Samet's face. Privacy is enacted through choreography, not solitude. Afterward, used squares are sealed in waxed linen pouches and ferried by hidden passage to palace gardens, where gardeners compost them into legendary rose beds. Archaeologists excavating Topkapı's service tunnels in 1993 uncovered shards of those jade trays, rose oil residue still clinging. Gas chromatography mass spectrometry revealed molecular traces identical to modern Isparta roses, proving the scent that once drifted through these marble halls. Now the moon dims and returns bright above smog-choked Soho, London, August 1854. Physician John Snow walks cobbles slick with night rain. In his pocket, a folded map pricked with ink dots marking cholera deaths. Each dot clusters around Broad Street Pump. Snow, lantern swinging, descends a wooden ladder into a cesspool beneath 40 Broad Street. Stench rises like a fist, yet he works calmly, dipping a tin ladle, collecting water thick with human waste. He corks a sample bottle, climbs out, notes on a slate, smell offensive, turbid. Modern researchers recreated Snow's samples in 2004, using archival microbial DNA to model cholera vibrio concentration. Their findings appear on a holographic display at the London School of Hygiene, a 3D plume of pathogens blooming outward from the pump, feeding on organic matter, replicating silently. Snow's quiet brilliance was not dramatic. It was methodical, sleep-friendly in its patience. He removed the pump handle, one small act quelling an epidemic. Tonight, we honor the hush in which science sometimes saves the world. Shift to a climate-controlled lab in Copenhagen University, 2022. Dr. Freya Sørensen places a grain of salt-sized fleck of latrine soil into a mass spectrometer. She studies stable nitrogen and carbon isotopes to learn what Vikings ate before they politely vanished into the pit. The machine hums, neon red out, glowing green. Peaks appear. High D15N values indicate marine protein, herring, cod. Elevated D13C reveals rye bread rather than wheat. Sørensen smiles. It tells us they wiped with the remains of yesterday's fish supper and black bread. An intimate menu, decoded centuries later without disturbing a single bone. She compares these isotopes with samples from a Greenland Norse colony cesspit. There, low nitrogen confirms seal meat scarcity in late winter. Diet stress, she says softly, foreshadowed colony collapse. All whispered by latrine soil, history spoken in the language of atoms. In a sun-washed courtyard at Università di Napoli, researchers attempt to recreate a spongia. Marine biologist Luca Grimaldi harvests natural Mediterranean sponge, boils it in seawater, then simulates 50 uses by squeezing it against a silicone mold. Afterward, microbiologist Dr. Eleni Papadopoulos cultures bacteria, surprisingly low counts thanks to salt plus vinegar baths. They conclude the communal sponge, though disquieting to modern minds, may have been hygienically superior to dry rags in medieval Europe. Students laugh lightly, yet the respect in their voices remains. Ancient pragmatism often beats modern assumption. Lab technician Yusuf Farah places a tiny microphone into a sewer pipe under Jerusalem's Cardo Maximus. He records the drip patterns, steady, resonant, echoing through limestone. Acousticians convert droplets into digital notes, composing a slow ambient track, each plink a calcium-limed heartbeat of a 2,000-year-old drainage system. Tonight, the soft crackle you hear beneath my words could be such a track. Ancient drips slowed to lullaby tempo, reality transformed into restful sound. We have wandered through Roman gutters pulsing toward the sea, Viking moss steeped in peat water silence, Lubeck parchment prayers descending into darkness, Ottoman rose-scented trays, and London's mapping lantern, isotope whispers of fish suppers and rye loaves. Each fragment forms a constellation, separate lights joined by imagination into a shape called human care. A sponge, a moss bundle, a perfumed cotton square, all gestures that say, comfort matters, dignity persists. Allow these underground corridors to dim. Picture the last LED lamp switched off in Herculaneum's tunnel. Darkness folds in like velvet. Somewhere above, waves kiss sand. Somewhere ahead, a lace-edged linen square waits beneath a gilded mirror. In our next chapter, we'll surface into candle-lit halls where copper buckets hide behind silk screens and lavender wafts through velvet coach seats. The contrast will feel like stepping from cellar to ballroom, yet the purpose remains the same. For now, inhale through the nose. Hold, exhale longer, letting moss-cool air leave your chest. The lab doors close, torches extinguish, and the quiet engines of isotope machines click into standby. Only the soft pulse of your own breath continues, steady as drip water in an ancient drain. You've climbed a long stair from dripping tunnels. Pause at the threshold of candle glow, feel cool stone under bare feet, give way to warmed parquet. A single breath crosses centuries, exchanging moss-damp air for perfume. The hall of mirrors shimmers with 4,000 beeswax tapers. Crystal chandeliers turn flame into star fields. Courtiers glide, silk on polished oak, like fragments of a slow comet. But our path veers beyond the mirrors, through a damask curtain embroidered in gold fleur-de-lis, to the private garde-robe of Louis XIV's favorite mistress, Madame de Montespan. Inside, walls are clad in Sèvres blue silk, a cushioned seat, walnut veneered, inlaid with mother-of-pearl arabesques, rests atop a faience pan painted with pastoral scenes. Underneath, a copper pail half filled with powdered lime waits to tame odor. Above, cubbyholes hold lace-edged linen squares, each embroidered AM. The mistress uses a fresh square once, drops it into a silver basket lined with waxed parchment. Two valets perform choreography worthy of court ballet. One knocks softly, trois coups, before entering. He sprinkles ambergris clove sachet into the copper pail. Vapor rises, sweet spice. The second valet fans the air with peacock feathers, pacing breaths to candle flicker. The entire ritual averages 3 minutes. An hour later, another valet hauls the sealed basket through servants' dirt corridors into a lime pit behind the Petty Park wall. Archaeologists excavating that pit in 1972 uncovered half-charred linen, embroidered AM, still faintly scented. Gas chromatography identified benzyl benzoate, the molecule that gives clove its lullaby warmth. Observation niche. You watch unseen, hearing nothing but muffled footsteps on wool carpet, smelling beeswax mingled with ambergris. Court life teaches that mastery of appearances extends even to what must never be spoken. Cleanliness is performance for invisible audiences. Step outward to a low annex where Jean-Louis Fargen, royal perfumer, macerates ambergris in 95-proof grape spirit. His apprentice fans charcoal under a distilling alembic that bubbles quietly. Fargen adds a twist of Seville orange peel, notes the ratio in a ledger. For guardrobe sachets, ambergris 1 Oz, clove 1/2 Oz, orange peel 1 Doctor, benzoin resin 2 scruples. He scatters cut silk squares on a pine rack, spritzes each with the tincture, rolls them into scrolls, ties with silver thread. The rack sits near an open casement. Night air chilled, carrying a faint owl hoot over the Grand Canal. The perfume dries, molecules bind to silk, future whispers of civet, citrus, spice. Fargen's descendant donates this ledger to Bibliothèque Nationale in 1908. Conservators digitize it. Chemists at Versailles Research Lab recreate the sachet in 2019. Visitors on palace tours now inhale the same accord that once hovered over hidden copper pails. Picture, if you will, the Sun King himself entering Montespan's gilded bedchamber at midnight. Etiquette manuals note he carried gloves scented with neroli to mask any lingering privy aroma. A court memoir records, His Majesty frowned upon nothing more than malodor. He would sooner pardon treason than stench. So even power bows before fragrance. That fear of odor shaped entire industries, perfumery, glove making, even the flower farms of Grasse. It also shaped privy design. Copper, lime, sealed baskets, tapers that ate smoke, all to keep the illusion of courtly perfection unmarred. Let candlelight dim, beeswax softens to honey color, footmen close shutters. Versailles sleeps, yet powdered lime continues its silent work beneath silk and gold. cross continents. Feel monsoon humidity brush your cheeks, lanterns sway in palace breeze. Inside the Yangshin Dian, palace of mental cultivation, a junior eunuch named Liang Yun carries a cloisonné enamel chamber pot, turquoise dragons chasing crimson clouds. Its rim is sheathed in hammered gold to prevent chipping. He kneels at a sandalwood cabinet, opens a drawer of bamboo soft paper squares. Each square is pre-folded 8 times into a palm-sized fan. Liang warms them over a brazier scented with agar wood chips. Heat releases subtle smoke that twines like silk thread through colonnades. After imperial use, Liang places the pot on a lacquered yoke borne by 2 servants along the flower corridor. At the far end lies a walled compost garden, cultivated solely for chrysanthemums used in court teas. Liquid waste feeds soil. The cycle of refinement continues unseen. Archaeologists in 2015 used ground-penetrating radar to map buried drainage tiles. Isotopic nitrogen levels confirmed decades of fertilization. Even luxury waste returned to Earth with purpose. Zoom 500 kilometers southwest of Fujian. In a mist-green valley, papermaker Zhou Wei steams rice straw, strips fibers, pounds them in a water-powered mortar. He lifts a bamboo screen through creamy pulp. Water drains, leaving a web of fibers that glisten like moonlit frost. Sheets dry against heated clay walls. Zhou dusts them with talc made from ground soapstone, giving a satin finish. Once cut, squares are brushed with liquid snow lotus resin, a faint disinfectant. They are stacked by thousands, wrapped in brocade printed with lotus motifs, then lacquer sealed for shipment up Yangtze barges to Beijing. Hold an imaginary square, nearly weightless, edges soft as moth wings, faint smell of talc and river mist. This is the unseen labor behind the chamber pot's luxury. Sleep quiet ripples in small workshops. Before we leave China, wander the compost garden under starlight. Moonlight silver washes chrysanthemum petals. A gardener loosens soil with a bronze spade, his lantern hooded to spare blossoms from heat. He hums an old court lullaby. Listen closely, the melody flows in 5/4 time, placing an extra beat between measures, space to breathe, space to bow to quiet tasks. These flowers will brew into pale gold tea, served to the Empress in jade cups. A cycle of waste turned fragrance, orchestrating dignity from necessity. Let images float together. Versailles ambergris, Beijing sandalwood, linen lace, bamboo paper. Smells overlap, rose, agar wood, beeswax, forming a perfume chord without discord. Exhale slowly as though through that chord, letting it fade. Ahead lie velvet-lined commode chairs in Georgian coaches and the hush of Pullman rail cars, gliding beneath winter stars. You will see how privilege traveled, carried softness like a private passport. For now, rest in this mid-segment hush. Palace doors closed, gardens scented, mirrors dark. Feel your heartbeat slow, matching the rhythm of a distant night drum on palace walls. A carriage lamp flickers against rain-streaked glass. You are inside Lady Pembroke's travelling commode coach, trundling over the Apennine Pass toward Florence. The coach smells of Russian leather saddlery mingled with lavender sachets tucked into velvet seat cushions. Underfoot, cedar parquet is cut in herringbone. Above, crimson damask curtains cinch tight to muffle cold mountain wind. The commode chair occupies the rear corner, mahogany, silver inlay, seat ringed in rose velvet. Beneath it, a porcelain chamber bowl bears the Pembroke crest, ermine and falcon, secured by brass clasps against rough roads. Lady Pembroke's maid, Miss Hetty Dawes, unwraps a packet of French cotton squares, laundered in river water, starched, sun-bleached on Provençal grass, then ironed with beeswax. She touches each to a crystal phial of English lavender oil, imparting one drop, no more, to avoid overpowering the lady's eau de cologne. When the coach halts for post horses, Hetty arranges folding screens painted with Chinese pagodas, giving the mistress a semblance of privacy. Outside, grooms exchange steaming horses. Inside, marble eggs in the foot warmer maintain heat. After use, the maid snaps the porcelain bowl's lid, sprinkles powdered orris root inside, then seals bowl and linen in a walnut traveling case lined with tin to prevent seepage. Archaeologists excavating a carriage maker's London cellar in 1994 found such tins, traces of orris starch still clinging. Gas chromatography matched the scent fingerprint to modern Parma violet, a whisper across 216 years. Jump forward a century. February 1889, a Pullman hotel car, Aurora, glides through Illinois snow. Lamp sconces cast amber rings across mahogany paneling. Passengers dine on oyster bisque. Porters in crisp uniforms set tables with silver Reed and Barton spoons. In the retiring room, Pullman-esque euphemism, gleams a nickel-plated toilet seat shielded by folding teak doors. Above a marble shelf rests the new marvel, a Scott paper roll on a nickel spindle. Porters were trained never to mention the roll aloud. If a passenger requested more, a porter produced it silently from a lacquer box, nodding once, then stepping back. Listen to the steel wheels, dat-dat, dat-dat, a metronome lulling you deeper. The car's underfloor heater hisses. Pine resin and coal mingle in soft clouds. Paper squares tear with perfect rip, far quieter than rustling catalogue leaves. Somewhere beyond the window, frozen corn stalks flash by like ghostly rows of pewter soldiers. Pullman archives show passenger praise. The retiring room conducted itself with metropolitan elegance. Softness now travels faster than any sailing packet, meeting sleepers halfway across a continent. Slide northeast, St. Petersburg, January 1898. The Neva River lies under a lid of blue ice. In the courtyard of the Alexander Palace, servants lash a bespoke ice sled sleigh commode for the Grand Duchess's winter picnic. The seat, white leather trimmed with silver thread. Pan, double-walled tin lined with felt to resist freeze. Paper, Imported two-ply English tissue infused with bergamot essence to counter the sharp pine smoke of samovar fires. A footman, coat frosted white, packs the commode in straw inside the sleigh trunk. Frost halos each breath. The royal children skate nearby, laughing. Even in temperatures that crystallize breath, the Tsar's daughters need comfort equal to palace standards. Historians found the sled commode's travel chest in a palace attic in 2009. Bergamot fragrance lingered faintly when warmed in a conservation tent. Swing to St. Louis, 1904. Inside the Palace of Hygiene exhibition hall, visitors queue before the Sani display, a revolving carousel of porcelain toilets in pastel pink mint buttercream. Signs proclaim the civilizing seat, now colored to match ladies' boudoir. A live demonstrator tears an embossed roll, dropping each sheet into a goldfish bowl model. Water whooshes silently, showing how new, dry processed tissue dissolves quickly. Children gasp. Ladies murmur approval. Softness graduates from discreet necessity to consumer fashion. Historians locate a surviving mint green bowl in a Chicago attic. Its glaze contains uranium salts, glowing ghost green under UV. Beauty with hidden bite. Time slackens. Pan across a sequence of silent tableaux, each held for 3 heartbeats. A Roman fisherman rinses a sponge under dawn surf. Gayetty's apprentice folds aloe sheets by glow of gas lamp. Ottoman attendant sprinkles a tar of roses into copper pail. Lady Pembroke's maid knots lavender sachet around porcelain lid. Pullman porter polishes nickel spindle under kerosene lantern. Japanese millworker embosses sakura petals in hushed factory night. Let these images float like lanterns on dark water. Notice how hands, not faces, dominate. Because dignity in this realm is manual, tactile, quietly offered. You recline in your own room now. Hear only the hush of a distant appliance and this low voice. Maybe a faint tick of wall clock. Maybe the sigh of wind at your window. In modern life, indoor plumbing hides its mechanisms. Comfort is a switch flipped, a role replaced, forgotten. Tonight, you have seen the chords that once pulled every flush, every fragrant sachet into being. Chords woven by fishermen, stationers, perfumers, porters. Soon, we will ease into closing thoughts. No new information, just the soft echo of what you've learned. Till gently into the pillow of your mind. But before that, inhale once more, feel ribcage rising, and release a little longer than the in-breath, letting any tension sink like a copper pail lowered out of sight. The candle of Versailles flickers. The Pullman lamp dims. Snow hushes St. Petersburg streets. A lavender sachet is tied shut one last time. All scenes darken, yet gratitude glows, steady as a nightlight. Breathe in gently through your nose. 1, 2, 3. Breathe out. 4, 5, 6, 7. Let shoulders drift even lower. We have traveled from vinegar-scented Roman dawns to sakura-embossed midnight rolls, following a single thread the size of a paper fiber. Human comfort. Envision the spongia rinsed in seawater, moss bundles bound with flax, parchment prayers sliced to rags. These were simple, rugged tools that asked nothing but endurance. Picture Gayetty's aloe-soaked sheets warming by a pot-bellied stove. The Scott brothers' roll sliding from a nickel spindle. Yamada's sakura dots gleaming under factory lamps. Innovation tiptoed into the privy on paper soles. Now recall ambergris sachets beneath silk damask, rose-perfumed bamboo squares in forbidden city corridors, lavender folded within velvet seats on mountain roads, luxury draped necessity in fragrance and lace, yet the body's plea remained unchanged. Turn your mind to your own nighttime routine. Soft light, warm tile, clean water waiting at a lever's touch, a roll, silent and unassuming nearby. Run an imaginary fingertip along that perforated edge. Feel how easily it yields. Behind that yielding, a fisherman on basalt coasts, stationers hunched over embossing presses, mill workers stirring eucalyptus pulp at dawn. Whisper, if you like, a quiet thank you. No one need hear but the darkness and the centuries that carried comfort to your door. Historians often celebrate cannons, treaties, revolutions. Yet tonight we saw progress arrive in gentler form. A sponge softened by vinegar, a signature pressed into paper, a porter polishing nickel so passengers could relax beneath winter stars. Progress is sometimes a whisper of rosewater inside a copper pail, a hush of bergamot on a frozen sleigh, a tiny LiDAR dot mapping parasite eggs so future children might live healthier lives. Feel your mattress cradle you. Notice the anchoring weight of blankets, the faint hum of plumbing in distant walls, the way night air cools your cheeks. Let lids grow heavier. If stray thoughts surface, tomorrow's chores, unfinished emails, imagine placing each one on a folded cotton square, dropping it into history's compost garden, where duties decompose into nutrient for some future chrysanthemum. A slow fan of memories unfolds, the drip of Herculaneum's gutter, lavender mist in a Georgian coach, steam from a Niigata paper dryer, candle glow on Versailles parquet, a Pullman lamp rocking beneath star-salted glass. Each fades to sepia, grows translucent, and finally floats away like tissue down a quiet drain. There is nothing left to do, no sponge to rinse, no court perfumer waiting, no porter to tip. Just the rhythm of breath in and out, steady as a distant tide. Your bed sheets, soft beyond any emperor's brocade, affirm that ordinary comfort has, at last, become universal. Allow that knowledge to settle over you like a cool whisper of aloe on cotton. Good night, traveler through sleepy origin. May each future dawn greet you with ease as effortless as a roll unfurling in candle glow.